This is the 8-9 combo. I'm Brett McKay and Harry Jones. What a first weekend of the Rugby Championship we have just enjoyed. What a ripper it was.
How's it, Brett? If in case you haven't enough of the lekkerbacks, and let me make sure something. When you say lekkerbacks, make sure you say lekkerback, not lekkerbeck, because it's a tremendous difference in the Afrikaans language. If you say lekkerbeck, a beck is a mouth. Yeah, so you don't want to say that you got a pretty mouth, boy. But the lekkerbacks have a new progeny, and it's a guy named Cheslin Arendse.
I read about this.
And he is playing for the Griffins, and hold for it. He wears a scrum cap. Special mystical powers on the way.
A smaller scale wingers in South Africa just given headgear at birth.
Next is going to be Kurtley van der Merwe. There's different derivations of the same name.
If we end up with a Makazole Dutoit, we might be in trouble. Be in trouble.
That might be a bit unusual, but we'll go with it.
It might be. We're at episode 27 of the 8-9 Combo Rugby Podcast, our 50th episode overall, and we're really pleased to be brought to you across the Rugby Championship by Chasing the Sun 2, the wonderful 5-part all-access series documenting the Springboks' journey to their memorable 2023 Rugby World Cup win. And it's coming soon to RugbyPass TV worldwide. Simply head to rugbypass.tv and sign up free, and you can watch the first series there already. And it's fantastic, Harry, to be working with Gareth and Jack and the TNW team to help spread the love for what was a fantastic series.
No, listen, people. I'll be serious now. This is the best rugby documentary that's been done so far. I'm hoping there's going to be many more like it. And Chasing the Sun 2 guys, Jack and Gareth, that's what they want to do. So let's all support them, gather around, and let's put rugby into that kind of elevated sphere where you can have great art. We have the best, interesting players, and Chasing the Sun really brings that across. I think if you sit down, I don't care if you've ever watched the Bucks before or don't like them, whatever, just sit down and watch the human beings that are involved in getting ready for a World Cup final and winning it. It's preposterous.
It is. We said it at the time when we had Gareth on there a few weeks ago. It is just fantastic storytelling. So, do yourself an absolute favour. Time to start the rugby week, mate, with cheers and jeers from the weekend. And it is your turn to lead off, please.
Cheers. So everyone knows, Brett, that you probably walk around your house in your Wallaroo underoos and you just say these words as you prance around barefoot. Sasha. Feinberg. Ngoma Zulu. And you do that while you do your various household tasks. So this week, our friend Shawnee Maloney had the unenviable task of saying that name a shitload of times. Whatever number of times he thought he was prepared for, it was 17 times more than that, because Sasha's quite the player. He's a gun. And so he and I had a little bit of chatter around how to do this. And I said, make friends with your amigo Gomez. Just make sure you get Senor Gomez in there, and then the and the Ulu just fall in line. Gomez Zulu. Instead of focusing on, but what happened was it was too much in his head, and poor Shawnee. I'm giving him cheers because he like soldiered on. But by the fourth or fifth time, he had slowed down to Sasha, and then he was scared. Feinberg? And a question, and then
Zulu. Yes.
And
do you know who the casualty was in this?
Who?
It was Ben Jason Dixon.
Yes.
By the end of the game, was a guy called Ben with a surname Jason Dixon.
He was the innocent bystander. He started calling him Jason Dixon. Like Jason Dixon became a thing.
He did. He had an errant hyphen, is what he had.
Hyphen moved around just like Ben Jason.
No, that's a good call. And we'd laugh at this because Shawnee will be laughing at it himself.
And he is excellent at names pronunciation. But he said to me, this is the hardest name he's ever had to deal with.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sorry, Shawnee. Get ready for Perth.
My quick cheers for you, mate, is crowds. And tell me this, why does it matter how big the contingent of Springboks fans was in Brisbane on Saturday just gone, or will be in Perth this weekend coming? Australia's a multicultural country these days. They still pay for tickets in Australia, even if they have flown in from overseas. So why is a sellout crowd in Brisbane laced with green in the stands, still somehow a criticism of Australian rugby. I do not get this.
It's actually what we need. So everyone says that the Six Nations, which has a lot of low quality games and often has 3 teams that are not very good. You saw how bad Wales is now. Is because you have
Wales are a very good team.
Yeah, sorry. The visiting crowds of Six Nations makes it.
Exactly.
It's wonderful to be in Murrayfield as I was, and you have a giant contingent of English fans, and they're singing and they're shouting. It's wonderful. So I don't know why anyone would begrudge the fact that there's a lot of Saffas living in Australia, and they wanted to go out and have a fun day. Great.
The Argentina game in Sydney that I went to last weekend had almost like half the back end were all Argentinian fans, and it was fantastic. I don't get the criticism. Anyway, we're a week into the Rugby Championship, and already it's about second round revenge. Who can deliver it? Who can avoid it? Which countries can bounce back? So we've brought back a great rugby storyteller to get into the round 2 narratives. He's up next. He's up right now. In fact, it's a welcome return to the 8-9 combo for our favourite YouTuber by a decent margin, who after the Springboks record win in Brisbane on Saturday will undoubtedly be serving up another truly humble edition of the Rugby Update in his unmistakable voice. And so it is great to welcome back onto the pod online rugby commentator Riaan Louw. Hello, mate. How you doing?
How's it going, guys? How's it going? I'm very happy to be here. This week, I will not be missing my video. I promise.
Did you?
Nice and very humble as always. You know me.
Did you forget to hit publish last week? Is it still sitting in your drafts, or what happened?
Oh no, I had to take a break. It's been just you have the island game. I went to Harry with that. That was already like a body killer, and before that, it was the URC final, and before that. So no, I just decided. I'm a terrible YouTuber anyway. I might as well take a break before the biggest games of the year and then just come talk about it.
But Ringo, but you can be honest with us. It's hard to be funny, isn't it? It takes a lot out of you.
I mean, I haven't made you guys laugh once this whole episode.
Oh, so good. But I'm very happy to say that we kind of did rugby update numbers on the weekend. Our YouTube videos on our channel and on the Megafoon channel in South Africa have just gone gangbusters, and something like 28,000 views across the 2 channels. I can't work out how. I don't think we said anything remarkably.
Imagine if you did actual promotions. Imagine if we actually did promotions.
Oh my goodness!
That's international rugby for you. As soon as that green jersey comes out the cupboard, everyone is excited.
I put the pod live and I checked on it after half an hour, and it had done its sort of usual first little bit number. And I looked at the YouTube video, and they both went up at the same time, and it was just ticking over like a poker machine. I was like, what's going on here? Anyway,
my theory on that is that we want someone to tell us what we just saw. Like, we're in the heat of it, we're going crazy, whether win or lose. But what was it? Did I see the right thing? And then you want someone to tell you that.
Yeah.
Did I see that right? Yeah. Anyway, it's done. Yeah. It's done fantastic for our numbers. We've added something like 100 YouTube subscribers like in 24 hours on Saturday and Sunday.
The trick is to not chase that dragon again, because you'll do your next video.
Oh no, we'll be back
into it, and then you'll get 50 views. You'll be like, "What did I do wrong?" So no,
I
got to be happy with the highs and just forget about.
Listen, Boyke, I'm just doing exactly the same thing. I'm going to say the same words again. I'm like literally going to talk about Brisbane. I don't care about Perth.
Yeah, no, I fully expect that we'll be back to our standard 63 views this week. So let's get into it. First question for you both. How are you going to maintain the Boks are still underdogs now?
They've been away from home for so long.
That's the response I wanted. Exactly.
There's your answer. We don't know.
Oh, I can't believe that.
I mean, they've been with their families for so long. I hear Perth isn't that nice. They probably have one foot on the plane now. So how could you maintain the same levels of definitely underdogs?
Yeah, the Aussies are going to be so cross. You guys are going to be so mad. You're going to come up with that extra steam. Channel the spirit of George Smith and John Eales.
Optus Stadium is like Eden Park in Australia. It's like I can't even think of the last time Australia lost a game there.
Well, Perth is where you guys beat All Blacks, right? Or
2 years ago.
You get close. Yeah.
Correct. It was.
Okay, so underdogs. There you go.
It is genuinely going to be interesting to see what round 2 looks like. Both squads we know are a bit beaten and battered. We know the Wallabies will be without at least 3. Nick Frost, Jeremy Williams have already been ruled out with concussion symptoms. Filippo Daugunu has a leg fracture. So, there's 3 force changes within the 23.
Don't tackle Peter Steph Toy. Don't do it. You fracture your leg when you do that.
Yeah, I can't actually remember what he did. It was early on. It was inside half an hour that he got helped off. So, and maybe the box
when we went up for the ball, and poor Kobus Reinach got squished between Gomezulu and Nguni.
Was that it? Was that where it happened?
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was they were. I don't know how anyone stood up for that collision.
Well, Kobus Reinach did, from memory. He stayed down for a bit, didn't he? So he got absolutely pancaked. How healthy would have been the box recovery on Sunday in Brisbane after that?
Well, my man Ben Jason Dixon did seem to hurt himself on the very final play, but besides that, I didn't really see too many people walking wounded. You never know. People just play on, and then sometimes they find something. I think though that Rassie will want to have a few different looks. I don't think he's going to put the same fill in the patch. He knows what that looks like. The loose trio, for example, worked really well. So you might want to have those 3 guys run out there and do something together, because why not? But I could see on the locks, the tight 5. You might even
does Snowman come in? Does Argy come back in?
They probably could have played anyway the first time. He was that close, so you would think he'll get on there, because you need some rest. But I don't think anyone's gonna. It's not gonna happen again that it's 21-0 in the first half with probably looked like it should have been 35. Like, that doesn't happen in Test rugby. I would think it's going to be a much tighter affair.
My concern is that it might be 35.
I think the second half might be worse for the Wallabies this time. But I'm saying I don't think the first 40. I don't think you get that many. I mean, Riaan, have you ever seen the Wallabies on their home patch get done in the first half like that? I've never seen it against any team.
Especially not against us. It really looked like the ruck was their problem. It's been for so long. They just could not keep the ref off the whistle, and it just gave us so much ball. I can't imagine that they'll be that poor at the ruck again this next game. There will be adjustments, definitely.
You would think so. Well, I mean, even if they only get a 50% share of ball, that's got to make a difference, you'd think, because it was like, what was it? Was it 40% at half time? And that felt generous.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it almost seemed like if they had more ball, being worse, because like Riaan saying, every time they tried to mount an offensive movement, it got snaffled or penalized. And now you're just looking, you're looking at defending a line-out maul in your 22. So they've got to somehow get cleaners on time. They got to find their base, Ben Jason Dixon, who, as an industrial engineerist, figured out where to get from ruck to ruck. I watched him the whole match just to see where he goes. And when I saw the Wallabies, everyone didn't have an assignment. It wasn't like they knew, I'm coming left, I'm coming right, I'm short. Even joining the maul, I saw Ben Jason Dixon do the same thing. Where's Harry Wilson? Latch him. Where's Valentini? And so he always had the same position. Yeah. There's still a working out process with the Wallabies. It's a young team. Anyone supporting Australia should give them a little more time. But I think if they're going to get somewhere, it's going to be around, like Ringo says, the rock has to be fixed.
Yeah, that's.
I've thought about this. Like, this is really a very unique rugby championship in my lifetime, at least, because usually after World Cup, you've got your normal, retirements. After 2019, we had our retirements. Legends left the game, but then we went into the Super Rugby. It still existed back then, and
it still exists now, for the record.
Well, the old Super Rugby where we were involved. So South Africans, New Zealanders, and Australians still kind of hit each other back then, and they kind of knew what was coming in the Rugby Championship. This time, we've never been further apart, these teams.
Yes.
There was a World Cup happened, a bunch of retirements happened. Now you have all these fresh faces coming in. They've never played against South Africans. And it was a calibration to see, okay, but how good are we really? We have no idea, because we haven't seen each other for 4 years. And it obviously showed that there is a very big difference in physicality to what the Aussies are used to. And they must now know, like Schmidt said, they've seen what the standard is, and they should be able to get better.
The thing that's interesting about that is that if you think about how many guys left New Zealand after the World Cup, South Africa still had something like 19 2023 World Cup winners in the squad on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon. So there hasn't been a lot of churn for South Africa this time around.
No, we're lucky.
The age profile just fits in a weird way. We have a lot of people who are 30, 31, 29. They're not 35, not all 35. So Vili is one. And then you got Sia at 33. Although he had a very good game, by the way. Riaan, I watched that game again, and he was one of the guys that looked better the second time around. I don't know if you watch games like that sometimes.
Yeah, I can absolutely get that.
Grinding work. He was doing a lot of cleaning. Hitting.
He was doing a lot of the taking the ball off the back of a fake maul and either passing it on or doing that first carry. Yeah, he was very big.
Yeah, they were moving people around. So, Brett, what did you think about that craziness where you had, instead of wasting a blind side off of a scrum, they just used Cheslin as the 9, moved Quibus into the back line.
Into first receiver,
Yeah, it's interesting look now.
It's actually not that unusual in rugby league, dare I say, in Australia, dare I say, because in rugby league these days you are often seeing fullbacks feed the scrum. You're often seeing back rowers set up at first and second receiver, not unlike Rob Valentini, Harry Wilson off the back of a maul, the back of out wide off a line out. So in that regard, it was sort of like, oh yeah, we've sort of seen this before, but it's certainly unexpected in rugby terms. You don't see that, but I think between that and the old transfer line-out move, there's going to be a lot of that done in schools of lower grade rugby over the next few weeks.
Ringo, I want to see a line-out move like that, but take it further. Do it like 3 or 4 times. Just keep
making contact, passing it forward.
Yeah, I just want to see the lifters with the bloke still in the air having to go back and forward so that the pass is forward.
That's why Papert is in the camp. They need to ask him, okay, but what if we do this? What if we have a guy hanging off the posts and we just kick the ball to him? Is that illegal?
There you go. Well, when they changed the laws, when John Eales started getting good at knocking conversions back over the crossbar before they crossed, you can't do that anymore. So, look, it certainly had an impact, and it was interesting that the Boks went back to that same move less than 10 minutes later. It was sort of like, surely we're not going to get away with this again. Oh no, we did.
It's enticing though, because you can get you can reap a lot of penalties from it. You have the early sack problem, and then you have maybe some of the guys misreading it and going through, and then they're behind it, so they join it from the wrong side. A lot of ways you could sort of ping someone. But I thought the main point was Riaan, was to shift the beginning of a maul so that you don't have the defenders in place. Is that the real issue there?
That's the one, and the other one is latching. You can pre-latch on the jumper now, because if you were to pass it on the ground, you're not allowed to have 2 latches onto the guy receiving the ball. But if he's in the air, once he comes down, you already have 2 guys on him, so you don't have that issue with pre-latching, and you have more force going through the guy with the ball as well. So it is a way to shift the contact and ensure you have guys latching.
I feel like I've seen a variation to this in the last 2 years, where jumper at the back and the pod at the front has stayed there. So they've managed to get gap in between the 2 pods. Jumper at the back has actually thrown straight down to receiver, and with that,
a carrier, a runner.
Whether it's scrum, halfback, right, doesn't really matter. And they just go straight up through the gap. I feel like we've seen that a little bit.
That's New Zealand scored a try that way, I think.
And maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
New Zealand has that in their book, playbook. I think it's interesting how they varied that approach at the line out. It looked like the Wallabies did have a line out deficit. So that's why I wrote about the set piece in my reaction piece, is just because I think that level of dominance at set piece, I don't know if you can come back from that in Test rugby. Sometimes
that's what I was going to ask you.
But I think in Test rugby, you're kind of toast.
So the Wallabies this week without Nick Frost, who is one of the quickest line-out jumpers in the game at the moment. He gets up so quickly, so athletically, so high, because he's 205 4 or 5 or whatever he is. They've called in a bit of line-out cover, the Wallabies, but they've not actually replaced Frost and Williams per se. So well, yeah, there is that. I mean, I guess Blythe is going to be there. I suppose he comes in, but what's the easy go-to that Australia can try and fix in that line-out?
Well, they could throw way over, and then Cheslin Colby can catch it. I don't know. I actually think
it's not just the lock issue. It's the hookers as well. They've been missing jumpers. I don't know. I haven't checked what teams the guys are from. Or maybe you can pick guys from the same Super Rugby sides and try and get that.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
They've played. They've played a lot of Test football. Yeah, so Fesler's from Queensland. Frost is obviously from the Brumbies. Lucan Salakai-Lotos from the Rebels this year, heading to the Reds next year. So, but they've all been in squads and trained together for a month.
Yeah.
So there should be some level of combination.
Now, Pauline's been working with LSL at Rebels, and so there's that connection. I think it's the coaches I talk to, when you have a bad line out going on, you just have to have no pride. You just have to take your medicine and throw it to the number 2 jumper and do it as quickly as possible. And don't have any like huddles where you're chatting about anything. You just know that's where we're going. If you can get there, you can get there. If you don't, we don't.
Yeah.
Or don't kick it out. Just try and don't kick it out ever.
There is that too. And Argentina got away with not packing the scrum for 70 minutes. So then maybe that's the goal this week. Just trying to avoid lineouts for 85 minutes. That'd be.
So Riaan, I think a hard look at Ben Jason Dixon, and I think a lot of teams underestimate how hard it is to replace a really good blindsider. And with Pieter-Steph du Toit, he's not old, but you're looking ahead now and you're saying, well, what if he doesn't make it to 2027? A lot of people were not talking about Ben Jason, or as Shawnee Maloney would call him, Jason Dixon.
Jason Dixon.
I take a look at him, and I think you've seen some of my other analyses of top lock, big forwards, and I just say, what's your involvements? And Ben Jason was good because he actually was on for 80 minutes, so I could get a nice benchmark. And the only guy that actually I've seen be more involved was Bakkies Botha and maybe Guido Petty, and then a hard worker, Matt Phillip, for Aussie fans. Yeah. But the level of excellence was kind of bizarre for a not heralded player. 3rd team in the 11th grade at Paul Roos. And here he is coming to gangbusters. Did you take a look at him, and what did you think about that level of play, and how many teams like the Wallabies or the All Blacks would love that? That is such a big thing to have.
It's like we've won the lottery. Not only has he got the engine that Pieter-Steph du Toit has, and the shortcuts on the field, but he's got the hyphen in just the right place as well. I mean, you couldn't ask for more. It's
a transient hyphen. It moves. Yeah.
It is winning the lottery. You couldn't be luckier. It is. I think we have to find a name. We've got lacquered backs now. We know that is a trope.
No.
This is trend.
We need to find a name.
This is not a thing. You can't
the hyphen blindside or something.
Lacquered backs.
I watched how many times he was just in time on a clean. I think there were 4 times in which there was an ISO runner and he got there, but it was so quick how he reacted. And I know he did his industrial engineering thesis on failure detection of failure, literally.
Makes sense,
So he's just running around going, where could a failure happen? And that literally is what the Wallabies need, is someone who just says, I don't care about the glory and the headlines. I'm just never going to let one of my carriers be snaffled.
He plays like a man who's been told you have to prove that you deserve to be here. Like he's desperate to just do well. It doesn't matter the situation, what the opponent. He is so happy to be there. Like he's got imposter syndrome or something, and he just wants to show that, guys, I'm good enough to be here. I know I'm trying to fill the shoes of Pieter-Steph du Toit, but I can do it.
Does he potentially force Rassie's hand here at some point in the coming future? And is Pieter-Steph du Toit's future as a number 5 lock?
Well, he could extend his career. Peter Steph could, because he would be the quickest lock on the pitch anyway, and it's a little bit easier to manage. You can see a lot more older locks running around.
Yeah.
And it made us a quicker team when you had that late change and you had Peter Steph go to lock. Now you have Eben, Peter Steph, Ben Jason, Sia, and Elwig. That was actually a really quick back five.
It's a fast back five.
Yeah. So all the fallacies about, Michael Hooper was saying, run them off their feet. Like, okay, try. I don't think that's gonna work.
That kept coming up last week, and I was like, have they not watched the rugby we've been playing for the last 2 years? No. It hasn't happened. We haven't gotten far. I think it's like you say, it's a great way to manage a career now. You can drop Peter Steph and say, okay, you've played 4 games in a row. We do not want you to get hurt. Ben Jason can go, or it gives you some flexibility on the bench. Do you want 6'2" wide? Yeah. How do you want your 6'2" to be made up? It really just, it sounds very smug, but it's just another bow and another arrow in our quiver.
It's a nice problem to have, isn't it?
Yeah.
Peter Steph, I think we're going to have to play you out of position.
What I liked about Ben Jason also was the height at which he played. So when we actually analyzed his tackles and counter rucks, he just gets down so low. I think for a guy, and I think you're right, a third team. By the way, Brett, being third team at Paul Roos is not bad. Let's just be clear.
No. When you said that, I thought, Harry, don't be disingenuous. Paul Roos is like untouchable.
Yeah.
But it's still something where you would go into Craven Week and go into unders 20s and thinking, I'm not the shit. I'm not the guy. I don't have the crown on me. So I think that's right. I think that's a humble, like Juwan Smith kind of thing. I kept thinking when New Zealand was losing to Argentina, how many times I kept thinking about Jerome Kaino and just having just your big bully who stands in the breach and says, no, Marcus Kremer, you're not getting anywhere. This is my pitch.
Yeah. Post match, Joe Schmidt was talking very much about patience and gradual improvements and taking the hard lessons, taking the medicine, if you like, and just having to apply that and do some hard work, and slowly but surely things will improve. That's not solving a lot of problems for another game 7 days later. But conversely, Rassie was talking about he was a little bit disappointed in places and some of the execution not being quite right. So that sort of, to me, sounds like an ominous, ruthless streak coming out, like a more ominously ruthless streak than he already had, even, which seems a bit.
I think he would be disappointed in the cards. We keep giving away cards.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There was 3 there in the space of, what was it? I've got it written down here somewhere.
It was almost 15 versus 12. Was it 15 versus 12 at any point?
No, Marks went off in the 68th minute, Van Staden the 72nd.
Yeah.
Jesse Creel the 79th. So I think Marks was back on by the time Creel went off.
Yeah. I think it was, we cannot get a handle on that. I think I saw this weekend. I posted that since the World Cup, we've gone 1 game without giving away a card, and most games we give away more than one. The one we lost is the one we didn't give away a card. So maybe we should keep doing that. But
the Wallabies are going a card a game in 2024.
Yeah. I don't know if that's maybe just modern rugby, and you have to live with the fact that a card is just part of the game, and it's more often than not that you'll be without 15 guys on the field. But I would think that is the thing that's bugging him most of all is getting that discipline sorted out.
It does seem like repeated infringements get you carded quicker now than it did in prior seasons. And so, to your point...
Yeah, but I don't mind that. And frankly, it should happen earlier in games.
No, I don't mind that either. But so that when you're in Camp Team 22, someone's got a real full-on attack, you're supposed to infringe. I mean, if you don't infringe at that point, your defensive coach is yelling at you. So you're going to do it. It's just a matter of avoiding the card. And you knew how to do that. You got 3 and like, okay, guys, now we don't. And it was smart. It's cynical, but smart. Now you get pinged you get carded on the 3rd. So now I think you have to recalibrate everything and say you only get 2 free bites.
Final warnings. Yeah. Luke Pearce had a conversation with Alan Alatoa around about the 50th minute, I reckon, and it was only about 5 minutes later he was saying the same thing to Dutoy. So he sort of got there pretty early.
Is Alan's second name also an A? I just hope that's true. Alan
Arthur.
Alatoa.
Augustus.
You want to be the first in
Alatoa.
every list in school.
It's a good question. I'm going to try and remember that next time I see him. I've had great conversations with Al. We genuinely, after a Brumbies captain's run, we completely derailed a captain's run press conference while we're getting onto the topic of ice cream.
I would think Joe Schmidt's big takeaway from that match, besides the things you've raised, would be, how can you not see Curtly Arendse? Like, did he become invisible? I've never seen a try at test level like that, where literally there's just no possible way he can score, and he just emerged.
Just found a way.
Yeah.
What are you both expecting to see from us? Like, there'll be adjustments. So what are you expecting Joe Schmidt will be able to conjure up for Australia this week?
Accuracy at the rucks, first of all. I think there's, especially early on in the game, this is the fixable. You can't find another lock that easily. You can't find props that are world class that easily, but you can stop going off your feet at the ruck. So that's the stuff they need to, I think, sort out quickly. Get on the good side of the ref, and don't. It was so often where someone would come the third or fourth man, the ball secure, and he would just come around the ruck and fall on the wrong side of it. So that's the first thing I would try and fix. And then when you kick the ball, don't kick it so deep that no one can get to it. Or if you kick it shallow, make sure your defensive line is in place so that Ngomezulu can't just break wide and send the whole team down the side of the thing. So those are the coachables they need to fix. The kicking was poor, and then those ruck infringements, just sort that out, and it should be a lot easier. Breakdown
accuracy is well and truly in Laurie Fisher's wheelhouse, Harry. You can expect that there's going to be there will be some hard sessions on that this week while there's training. I
think so. However, that's still affected by your opposition to somewhat. I think kicking game is the one where you can change the most.
That's something where you can do something about.
It's your own setup. And even the exits were just shockingly poor. There were several times where Jake Gordon put the ball out, and it was like 15 meters from the line. Like, there's almost no point in kicking. You're better off just running it up then. And you saw that the Boks would have some of these run exits. So, I would do everything different. I would do everything opposite. So someone's got to hit Sasha. I don't think he even got touched unless he wanted to get touched. Unless he wanted to get tackled. I thought that they should kick more and quicker and more early in the cycle, but fine grass. And then, I think they need to make it a grinding, spoiling, ugly affair. I don't think they should try to tire the Bok forwards out. I think they should keep their forwards fresh, keep the ball in front of their forwards, stop making their forwards run around in circles. I saw, who was it? Nick Frost. I saw Frost just getting gassed because they were making him do bizarre things. I mean, there wasn't enough empathy for their fellow man. Like I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Coordination. So I think Fisher's going to be on that. I think basically do everything different.
Are you expecting to see a lot of changes
in personnel? Well, you could see 9 and 10 bearing the brunt, and it might not be fair actually, because I think they got
it almost certainly won't be.
They got toweled at the pack area, so I don't know. Like the scrums, so there's got to be a different scrum or a different prop or a different angle or something, because you start
Alatoa and Slipper. Don't split them up. Start with your good props.
And
experience.
I suspect if Tupou can't play for a second week, and he's very much up in the air at this point that we record it, he's gone back to Tonga for his father's funeral. If he doesn't play, that would make sense to me. That Alatoa and Slipper start, and there might even be an argument for Pollard, the Brumbies hooker, to start with them.
Andre Pollard.
Go.
That's actually interesting. To start picking players from the other team, that could work. Or you could play Rory, Richie Arnold, Will Skelton, Angus Scott Young, Tom Staniforth. How about these guys that are playing really well in France?
It should be allowed, but you can only pick them out of position. So, yes, we are going to pick Andre Pollard, and yes, you will wear the number 2 jersey. Stranger things have happened. Paul Williams is referee this week. Different sort of pictures, different look around the ruck.
I like his.
I know nothing about refs, so
he's a funny guy.
It's easy to ask the question. You don't have to give the answer.
I deliberately avoid learning ref patterns, names, everything. The less I know about a ref, the better. It makes rugby watching a lot easier and a lot more fun, actually. Yeah.
He's from New Zealand, I can tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, and I'm the same way. I just don't even want to say their names, but I would say that both. So I think the total count of penalties was 15-13-ish or something like that. So both. So you would think actually not so much about the referee, but both teams would have gone into this week saying we don't want to get penalties when we have the ball. Okay, so obviously sometimes you got to take a penalty, and we don't want to have set piece penalties. So hopefully we have one of those matches where it's 7 or 8 penalties. Each instead of 15.
You'd take 11-8 at this point, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it was choppy. It was pretty choppy.
It was. Yeah. It absolutely was very choppy. And there's our break. That's good. That's easy. Insert Chasing the Sun ad here.
Yes. That's our money, Ringo.
I feel that. Very cool.
Yeah. Harry, Riaan, New Zealand, Argentina was the boil over the weekend. And I'll repeat what I said on Saturday night, the test match post-mortem, Harry. I can't recall, and I watched the last 15 minutes of that game again on Sunday. I can't recall Argentina closing out a game so ruthlessly like they did. But New Zealand hardly had the ball in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was an incredible performance.
Stuck in my mind was post-Adelaide, our friend Trev and I went to a bar in Adelaide, and we were watching on my phone while we were eating a pizza. The Pumas beat the All Blacks then. So that was 2022.
Yeah, in Christchurch.
And I started to think this weekend, are the Pumas their bogey team? I mean, like on
paper,
it didn't look.
Do you want a stat? Do you want a stat?
Yeah.
Argentina have won 2 of their last 3 in New Zealand.
That's phenomenal. Like that's actually very interesting. So I guess what I would say on the mentals, just the confidence factor, to your point, they're not afraid to win. That sounds weird. Yeah. They're not afraid to win.
I know exactly.
But I think winning in New Zealand has sort of sometimes been a spooky thing for people. And they go, now they're going to come back and beat us. And so I think the mystique is gone from the New Zealand side. I guess that's a sad thing and something that makes you mad. Like our friend Martin Devlin's probably ranting right now somewhere. But I would say that they're not scary enough. They seem too nice a vintage. They still on their day can put so many points on the board. They scored enough to win, but they don't seem mean and malicious enough on defense.
How much will it hurt the All Blacks scoring 30 points themselves and still losing a test match? Because that doesn't happen every Saturday.
That's what you got to do to beat them. I think that's what Nino Albert said a few years ago. If you're playing in New Zealand, you need to score, I think, above 32 points if you want to beat them, because they will inevitably put 30 points on the board. That's out of the world. So it just feels, I cannot get out of my head Wellington 2018, just naivety from the All Blacks. The inaccuracy and the nonchalance of that, Artie Sevilla passing the ball back and then Damon McKenzie passing it back another 25 meters. That just feels like your head is not in the game. It's such a cliche to say. You are just looking around and thinking this will sort itself out, guys, instead of, no, you have to actually do something about this problem. It just felt like the All Blacks were thinking they will show up and win. And the same happened in Wellington. And the team that came in was more motivated, more accurate, and they just tackled them to pieces. It was so cool to see, actually. I love it when Argentina win there.
Yeah. What about bounce back factor this week, Harry? Because if there's something that we do know about New Zealand and the All Blacks, it is that they are a horrible team to play the week after a loss.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, but
that's a good question.
But Argentina also won't care that much. I mean, Argentina's. No. If you're an Argentinian fan, what probably makes you the most upset is, I'm sure the team now is like, no matter what happens in the second match, we won.
We won in Wellington. Yeah, exactly.
And as Gus Creevy would put it, I can't say what he said. So he was so happy.
He made a great point.
F-bombs on TV.
He did. What did he say? He said I'm 39. I've never won here before. Like, it was a huge moment for them.
So there's a possibility that the second one just goes the way that it normally goes. but it's still a problem. And I think All Black fans who are real All Black fans are actually saying that. And they're saying, why are we a team that's not to be feared anymore on our home patch? Ireland clowns us, Peter O'Mahony's talking shit, and now the Pumas are actually almost looking forward to a game in New Zealand. I would think they would look forward to a game in New Zealand now.
Yeah. Is there or have you guys noticed a concern amongst All Black fans knowing they've got to go to Ellis Park and Cape Town?
Ellis Park, do you say?
Yeah.
I wonder who's going to be there.
I wonder who's going to be there.
I would think they
are. I look forward to that WhatsApp call at 4 a.m.
Hey, I think your point, Brett, is that this lays out really badly for the All Blacks right now. Like if you're looking at it and you're saying, and you're Razor, so let's just talk about Razor because he's probably the guy who's waking up in the middle of the night and kicking things. There is a possibility here that he takes one, beat Argentina. There's a possibility of going 0-2 in the Republic. Very good.
Yep.
And now you're 1 out of 4, and you're the new coach. Oh, man, yeah.
And you've got to land in Sydney and definitely win to
Joe
make sure you
Schmidt.
do not lose Bledisloe Cup.
And Joe Schmidt knows a few things about the current All Black team about how to make them play badly. Yeah.
I remember when Ian Foster took over as All Black coach, and they went through a shaky run through July, and maybe they might have even dropped the first Rugby Championship test. And I remember, I might have even written it. I remember saying, imagine being the first All Black coach to lose the Bledisloe Cup.
Ooh,
yeah. You don't want to. You don't want to be that guy. And being Razor of all people, a man who has traumatized me for the best part of my 30s.
A man who has made winning almost a disease.
Yeah. He killed Super Rugby.
Won everything. He did.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? So obviously he had the cheat code to club rugby. Is there such a thing as needing to be an assistant coach, or at least in the setup of test rugby? Is test rugby that much different, I guess is my question. Or should winning translate from top 14 boom, into test rugby?
That's what I was saying
question.
At the start. It's this calibration thing where how good are we really? You run up against these Argentines who are packed to the gills with Toulouse stars and Stade Francais stars, people who are used to winning in very good teams in very good competitions. They're not Jaguares anymore. No. So maybe the cohesion's not there, but these are guys who play in extremely professional setups. So, and Contemplate, what people forget is he was coaching at Leinster when they were winning everything. He was the attack coach. So he's no mug. He was there before Mike Catt was the guy, if I remember correctly. So
yeah, you're right.
They are not a team that's coached or full of players that are made up out of club sides. And I think it was just that we don't know how good we need to be to beat this Argentine side. And Argentina will always have the motivation, knowing they've won there before, to go in there and try and win another one.
There's no fear factor. And then Pablo Matera, having played and lived in New Zealand, I think is one of those hidden weapons. He would have been one of Razor's best players when he was playing there. And then I started thinking, there's a lot of guys on the Argentina team, and they're missing Boffelli and a couple of locks, Petty. Yeah. There's a lot of guys on there that are the best players in their teams. I started going across it. Malia was sort of the top guy in his team. Sinti, Chocobares.
Yeah,
you keep going down the list, and you go, whoa.
Montoya was one of Leicester's best.
If you could just have no scrum for 70 minutes, they're dynamite.
That is actually a very, very big point, is the lack of scrums that absolutely killed them. They should have been scrumming.
To the point, and we discussed this in the post-mortem, to the point where Angus Gardner genuinely, at the point he told Blue 1 and 3 you're off, I'm sorry, guys, you didn't get to pack a scrum.
If I'm Jordy Barrett, I'm just dropping it cold just to make a scrum in the first minute.
I'm surprised an Argentinian prop didn't do that.
If the other team drops it, just drop it again immediately. Don't try and play advantage or whatever. Just
we're definitely packing this. We're definitely packing this. Do we see any upsets this week, or do you expect these two games this weekend to go at a time?
I do feel like the Boks are it's light years between these two teams. There's many years of victories and losses and stuff. So be patient with the Aussies, be patient with Joe. It won't help to throw the baby out with the bathwater now. Like he said, it's little, improve one thing a week, and just get better at it. So I do think, and Perth is Perth Fontaine, even us in South Africa call it that. We all have family there. So it should be even
the irony being it's
Brisbane.
the one place in Australia that Cheetahs do play.
Yeah. And the All Blacks, it's hard to say they don't have they call it the blacklash, the backlash. Yeah. They must still have it. The Crusaders had it under Razor. It must still be there. And the Argentines do love a party after a win, so they must still be drunk.
Won't it be a thing, Harry, if they don't have it?
Oh, well then, so Razor's already, there's no way around this. Razor is under stress right now.
He is, no question.
But if you pose that scenario, Brett, then it becomes a blowtorch. It becomes every press conference question is about why are you failing, but why did you fail, but why is no one listening to you? What's your style? Because right now it does look like warmed over, milli pop oatmeal from the morning before from last night of Ian Foster. Like, what's the real difference except Damien trying to do something, smile his way to victory? I don't think that's going to be okay for the hard men of New Zealand rugby, the guys in the Blazers, the 60-year-olds. I think they want to show a message. So I think it's going to be a violent, brutal, niggly. It's the match in Dublin after the match in Chicago. It's the World Cup final, where there's hardly any points scored. I think it's going to be one of those where
it's Eden Park after our surprise loss in Australia.
It's 20-3, it's 20-6, it's 18-3, it's something like that. They're really more focused on winning each individual personal battle. If you're going to have Wallace Satiti come on instead of Hoskins Satutu, then hit somebody. I mean, it's not you cannot just be throw the ball around. You want to hit somebody. I think both matches are lower scoring, but I think it's Boks and All Blacks that win comfortably in the end.
I think you're probably right. I'm going to edit that out. There's no way I'm putting that into air, but it could well happen. Riaan, fantastic to have you back on the pod, mate. Always good to catch up. We welcome back the rugby update this week.
Yes.
Yes, it'll be there. Promise.
We look forward to it, and
I can't wait. I love seeing what Ringo puts on that first piece because it's not obvious. He doesn't go
the line there. He does
rugby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, whatever that's behind that is interesting. Yeah,
exactly,
I wonder what it'll be. Maybe it'll be this pod.
Could be.
Who knows?
Could be.
Who knows?
Maybe
you guys are bigger than me
right now.
So put me on yours.
Thanks, mate. We will talk again before the year's out. I've got no doubt.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See you soon.
This is the 8-9 Combo Rugby Podcast with Brett McKay and Harry Jones. And, mate, wonderful to have Ringo back on the pod.
So good to have Riaan Dixon Louw back on the show. I like our listeners and viewers getting a taste for how he's funny and he's got all that that humor stuff, but he really drills down really well on insights. And
analysis.
Good
analysis
pure
behind the funny lines. There is good analysis there. So no, great to have him back on for the 50th 8-9 pod. I can't believe we've done 50 shows already. No wonder I'm tired. Gosh. A quick whip around
10 last week.
I know. We were on 15 podcasts over the course of 4 days last week. It was mad. A quick whip around the grounds. A lot less rugby being played around the world currently. The Curry Cup has been going for about 6 weeks in South Africa. The Bulls and the Golden Lions lead the respective pools. I'm sorry to say this. Free State beat Western Province at Newlands last week to hold second in Pool A, and there's Harry's enthusiasm for the rest of the show gone. The NPC started in New Zealand over the weekend. Wellington beat Auckland at Eden Park. Southland held out Otago in the Southern Derby. 6 teams, including Wellington, had started with bonus point wins. Southland were actually the odd team out. Can you believe this? Round 1 of the new top 14 season in France is the first weekend of September.
Too much rugby. Too much rugby. There needs to be a gap.
Bad. They played their final a week ago. That's crazy talk. And club rugby in the major Australian markets moves into finals this weekend. It might even be the second week of finals in Melbourne, I think. But best of luck to everyone in finals around Australia this weekend coming. We'll be back with games of the week later in the week to kick off the Rugby Championship previews for this weekend's round 2 matches, and then the test match post-mortem is back on Saturday night Australian New Zealand time with our first thoughts on the Rugby Championship matches before we really digest what happened. So make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and make sure you don't miss a minute through the tournament. Straight into some headlines made of the last couple of days, and I've got sort of 2 interesting little headlines for you. The second one you'll know about. The first one maybe not so. RugbyPass last week reported that former Australian centre Kyle Godwin, who plays for Lyon in the top 14 now and won his one and only cap for the Wallabies against France back in 2016, is ready to join his former Western Force teammate and friend of the pod, Ian Pryor, in switching international allegiance to the country of his birth, Zimbabwe. Ian Pryor played in Zimbabwe's recent Africa Cup win. And so all of a sudden now the eligibility laws are working really well. Gareth Evans, who played 1 test for the All Blacks, ex-Highlanders loose forward, considering switching as well. Junior Springbok lock Eli Sneyman might be switching to Zimbabwe as well.
Zimbabwe.
This is the way. It is for this very reason that allowance was brought in.
Good on Zimbabwe. That could be a decent team. They could trouble some people.
It could be. And so they'll edge closer and closer towards Rugby World Cup qualification. The other point is that the Rugby Football Union in England announced late last week that Twickenham will be renamed Allianz Stadium in September. A multi-year deal has been struck on the back of, quote, significant long-term investment from German insurer Allianz, rumoured to be about £10 million a year, I believe. So Twickers will become the 8th Allianz Stadium around the globe, of which there is one in Sydney as well.
I mean, you got to do it if you're on the board. You know, you hope it's not
easy money.
You hope the name is not some, like plastic surgeon, with a boob lift or something. But you joke.
A stadium in Townsville genuinely for a couple of years was called something or other Smile Stadium because some orthodontics firm bought it out.
Yeah.
So
Alliance is pretty respectable, I guess.
How many stadiums do they need, though?
For me, though, it's that you end up taking the money and then hopefully you still say Ellis Park or Kings Park. You don't really say. And so I know the commentators have to. But everyone else, we can just keep saying Twickers.
BT Murrayfield is a classic example. So, we'll see. It'll always be Twickers, I think, for us. Some final thoughts for the week? What have you got for me?
Oh, I just think Test rugby brings a whole new level of animal spirits and joy and pain and agony. It's all on display. I thought the Australian response, just from judging from comments back to either my posts or the article, were interesting. Like everyone was like, "Okay, we take this on. We thought this might happen." And then you have whatever the next thing is. Some people go, no, it has to be club competition, or Super Rugby is holding us back, or we've got to play overseas players. So you have these familiar camps. But I was struck by the fact that no one's running for the exit, and everyone was looking forward to seeing what happens next. So that's a good sign for Wallaby Rugby.
Yeah, let's hope so. And look, I think above all else, everyone's hoping for an improved showing next week. It's probably easy to prepare for a game and it's easy to say you know what's coming, but when you've just experienced it, then you really know what's coming and you can make adjustments. You're not making adjustments based on what you think is coming. So, let's hope that it is an improved showing this weekend in Perth. That then is episode 27 of the 8-9 combo done for another week, our 50th episode all told. Check out the show notes for the links to the 8-9 combo on Twitter and on YouTube, where so many of you have found us over the weekend, and where you'll find video versions of the podcast every week. Leave us a rating or a review wherever you can. And if you are subscribed to us on Spotify, jump into your settings and make sure auto download is on, and then you definitely won't miss us. Harry and I remain on the socials in our usual places at Harry Bordy Jones and at BMC Sport, and you'll find links in our socials for all our written work across the week. Harry's written 13 stories for the Raw already, and I'll have another Australian column on Rugby Pass later in the week. And don't forget as well to head to RugbyPass.tv, where you can see the 2019 series of Chasing the Sun, the documentary series celebrating South Africa's back-to-back Rugby World Cup titles, and with the 2023 series Chasing the Sun 2 coming soon. So sign up for free and watch it wherever you are in the rugby world. This is the 8-9 combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed, coming from the podcast double act you already had. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones. And we'll be back in your ears later in the week with the Rugby Championship edition of Games of the Week.
Come chase the sun with us.
Yes.